Repeat the words, it's good to see so many people here on this quite miserable night. It was sleeting as I drove into us. And I will now introduce tonight's lecturer, Tim Ryan. I confess I know very little about Tim, except that he likes horse racing and he's part of a project to restore the Severn Princess. And he's going to tell us about the history of the Severn Ferries. Tim Ryan.
I'm Tim's beautiful assistant, by the way.
Glamorous.
Sorry, glamorous. Beautiful and glamorous, sorry.
Hello. That was rubbish. Let's have another go. Hello. Hello. Now we're friends. A couple of things. One, if you catch me grimacing, my back is killing me. And I've been a brave little bunny getting here tonight, especially for you. Secondly, erroneously, Michael has paid the donation into the ferry already. So I'm off. I'll see you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm here to talk about the old ferries that ran across the River Severn before the Queen opened the Severn Bridge on September the 8th, 1966. Long time ago. September the 8th, Queen opened the bridge. September the 8th, the Queen died. September the 8th, I got married. September the 8th, 1966, was the very first showing of Star Trek on American telly. So, it's an important date. Now then, if you remember the old ferry, you might remember that lovely wooden pointed road sign. That's the road sign from a place called Tutsville Crossroads, about 2 miles from the pier at Beachley where the ferry worked from. And if you remember that sign, I'm prepared to wager that you remember sitting underneath it in your car, in the queue, waiting onto the ferry, but much more of that later. Now, one of my best mates in Chepstow is a chap called Richard Jones. Richard was a doctor. It was his grandfather, Enoch Williams, who built the ferries and ran the company. And Richard, ex-GP, fine, upstanding member of society, pillar of the local community, and he nicked that. You're getting it already, aren't you? He nicked that on September the 8th, 1966, the day the bridge opened. And to make matters worse, he nicked it from the police station wall at the time. So that's the kind of company that I keep. Now then, I've pretty much given up doing these talks because of a back problem really. I'll do them within a kind of 10-mile radius or for charity groups. And I've not done many in the last couple of years. But years ago when I was doing them, I'd be going to Bristol, and I'd be rattling on about the Beachley Ferry, and the audiences would give me puzzled looks. And I couldn't quite work out why. Until it's made very clear to me that on the other side, the dark side, it's called the Oss Ferry. And to my knowledge, it's the only ferry crossing in the country which has got a different name on either side. I can't find another one anywhere. And for my own benefit, I'm not going to tell you who nicked that one. My nefarious past. It was actually found by one of our group in a Bristol Highways Department depot. And he spent hours routing through hundreds and hundreds of rusty, sooty old road signs and eventually found that one. So that's a stroke of good luck, isn't it? So's this. What you're about to see arrived on my doormat some years ago, little jiffy bag. Inside was a spool of cine film. And all it said on the label was Ferry 1939. So that's the Severn King, arriving at Beachley Pier in 1939. And there's a 7-foot wide, rickety old ramp. being lowered onto the quayside. And on that bit of film, you see the ramp is sat there nice and still, and nice and calm, and nice and quiet. That ain't quite how I remember it. What I remember is that ramp doing that and that and that and that and that, covered in mud at the same time. So it was a bit of an escapade to get on there. And my mum, you just pause it please.
Yeah.
My mum, like lots of the ladies of her generation, refused point blank to be driven up that ramp. They got out of the cars and they walked on board. Now that created a problem, and this is it. When those ferries were fully loaded, they had 19 vehicles on them. But to get all 19 on, they had to park the cars so close together, you couldn't open the car doors. So you're sailing a ferry boat on the most dangerous river in Britain. Believe me, I've had a boat in it all my life. The most dangerous river in Britain, full of cars, full of people who can't get out. And I can prove it, because here's the Severn Princess, and she's fully loaded, and you cannot open the doors. So my dad would be in the car with me and my sister, and my mum was outside in the pouring rain and couldn't get on to the ferry, get into the car, sorry. So, here we go. Okay. And again, please, top. Isn't it brilliant? Right, pause it please. Thank you very much. Myron's my roadie for the night.
Yeah.
The turntable. Enoch Williams was very careful with the money. I think careful is the right word. And he wanted as many cars on every crossing as was possible. But cars back then in the 30s and 40s, no power steering, yeah, not very manoeuvrable. And his wife, Ida, woke up in the middle of one night with this idea about a turntable. And so Enoch put turntables on the Severn Queen and the Severn King. You drove onto the turntable, the deckhands weighed up the sides of your car and pulled you around in the right direction to point you where they want you to go. And I've met so many people who've told me they're driving, they go onto the turntable, the deckhand pulls it around, and the immediate knee-jerk reaction is to turn the wheel the other way. Right, go. Cheers. Aren't they lovely? The very fact this film ever was taken and survived and found its way to me is just priceless. That's the pier at Beachley. Go and have a look. It's a lot steeper than you will remember. More of that in a second. Any colour as long as it's black. Look at that. Running boards. Yeah, an indicator at the door jam. And a parking light at night. Yeah. Okay, can you just pause it there a sec? Just pause him there. Top. Beachley or Rost? We're divided on that. My dad, when he was 19, he was in the Borderers, the Mons, and they made him a sergeant. And they put him on top of Oss Cliff, in charge of a searchlight site. And his squad was 8 other boys from Chepstow, so there's 9 of them. The raids commenced on Bristol every night, and on Avonmouth every night. So the nights are manic. The next day, they're maintaining their gear ready for the next night. And the army had said you're not allowed to leave the site in case there's an emergency. Well, the boys are fed up with this after a while, and they can see their back gardens, you know. So they had a bit of a conflab, and my dad said, right, we'll take a chance. We'll have one night in, 9 off each. Get the last ferry home at night, see your family, go for a pint. First ferry back in the morning, no one lets me down, because if you do, I'm going to lose these stripes. That went on for ages. And so this happened. One of the guys is at the top of Oss Pier. The last ferry is 4 feet out. Full army clobber. He belted down that pier as fast as he could motor and jumped off the end of it. He's now flying horizontally across the water. He just manages to grab hold of the spray guards and hauls himself aboard. And Billy Groves, the skipper, opened the wheelhouse window and shouted down, "You daft fool! We're just coming in! And they're all true. So my dad calls it Osferry. Did. Right? Aren't they lovely? There's already a queue, more of that later. So, ton and a half of car, ton and a half of turntable, all being pulled round by one bloke with a rope. And not a high vis in sight.
All hat, hard hat.
No, all hard hats, no. Here we go, time is money, get on with it. Right, pausing there, please. I met a guy who, I love doing this talk, I used to do it a lot, but I don't now. But I meet so many people who tell me stories. And I never tire of doing the talk because I can mix and match the stories. I met a guy who'd been in the army camp at Beachley, Apprentice College. He'd been stationed in Germany and he bought himself a brand new Volkswagen Beetle car. He's back at Beachley, he's going down the ramp to get on the ferry, the tide is dropping out. What's it leave behind when it does? Mud. He turns his wheel to go up on the ramp, the front wheels of the car locked, and he starts to slide down through the mud. The more he hits the brakes, the faster he goes. That's the way it works. He went off the end of the pier and into the river. Volkswagen Beetles are airtight, therefore they're watertight. So what happened to him? He floated off upstream. They got the ferry into gear and went after him. They caught him halfway to Sharpness. They put a boat hook through the driver's window, hooked him around the steering wheel, and dragged him back to Beachley and winched him out. And a week later, Enoch sent him an invoice for the salvage rights to his car.
Go on.
Here we go. So the deckhands and the crew were quite legendary. Pause it again, please. Tom. Were quite legendary. The ferries worked every day of the year, apart from Christmas Day. 4-8, 4-9, didn't matter, they operated. The only time they stopped was in the winter of 61, 62, terrible winter, and then moorings froze over, so they couldn't get off the moorings. But besides that, they absolutely worked all the time, every day. Yeah. I think this is a military vehicle, but it shows the mud going up the ramp. See through. So that's 1939, that's absolutely priceless. Pause in there, continue. Oh, what's happened there?
Go back a bit.
Back a long way. That's it. That's it. That's it. Keep going. That's it, that'll do. Yeah. Anyway, I was talking about the crew, wasn't I? On these stormy days, the crew were real characters. And the boat would be doing that in a trough in the waves, and they used to walk around the cars singing "Abide with Me." Right, go. Top. Right, here's your military vehicle. And just keep going a little bit. Top. There we go, thanks. Now we've evidence of short-lived attempts at a beach Joss ferry going back through history. This is the earliest I can find. It's a published fare list for a beach Joss ferry dated 1775. And there it is. So it's part row and part sail, but amazingly the fares are on it. I love these. A coach with 6 horses, 16 shillings. It's a fortune. That's what I thought. That's an absolute fortune. And then I thought about it. If there's no ferry, the trip from Chepstow to Bristol via Gloucester, it was 60 miles. And for a coach and 6, that's probably 4 or 5 day journey. So if you had the money for the coach and 6, you had the money to pay the 16 shillings. Sheep! 2 shillings a score. beasts, 4p each. And get this, a man and his wife a shilling. Okay. Oh, hang on, I'm sorry. Let's get a bit more up to date. Do you remember proper money? Remember real money? This is a fare list from the 1960s. Adult passengers, a shilling. Juveniles. What a word. You get locked up for calling it a juvenile today. Juveniles, a tanner. Motorbike and sidecar, 1 and 6. Large cars, 3 shillings, small cars, 3 shillings, larger cars, 4 shillings, because one took up more space than the other. Motorbike and sidecar. Do you remember them? Do you remember the A-man? Yeah? His tools in the thing and his leather gauntlet, and he would salute you. Like the A badge. Get the badge in front of your grill. Anyway, motorbike and sidecar. I met this couple from Pontypool, and he worked in Bristol. So every day, he'd be down to the ferry on his motorbike, up the ramp, not a problem. Once a year, he told me, he took his wife out for the day, for what he called an airing. So I thought it was interesting, but anyway, normally they go around Brecon Way. This year, she wants to go to Bristol. So, sidecars on the bike, down to Ox Beach he goes, up the ramp he goes. He's forgotten that the sidecar's on the bike. And you've seen those ramps, there's no barriers and none of that malarkey. So she's overhanging the water. And guess what? Bracket snapped. She went down into 4 foot of horrible water, and the crew very quickly got her out, rescued her. And he said to me, Tim, do you know what? She never went out with me on the bike ever again. Go. Right, Enoch was a businessman. He hated that Gloucester trip. Time was money. So after a few pilot schemes in the late 20s to prove there was a demand, he proved that there was a demand. So we built the Severn Queen and then the Severn King, and they ran through all those years from 1935 up until the bridge opened. Just pausing there a sec. But by the mid-50s, there's no sign of a bridge. Families are getting cars for the first time, so there's more demand for the ferry. And that's when the queues began. And Enoch had to build the 3rd ferry, the Severn Princess, which we'll come to in a moment, but the queue story is this. When we were in the queue, my dad would kick me out the car and make me walk to the front of the queue, counting all the cars. He knew they were inside out. I'd get back and give him a number, and he'd work out whether we get the ferry or not that day. And I'll bet you, I'm the only person here who still knows his 19 times table. 19, 38, 50 times 30. But the old man was a canny person, and he eventually worked out a way of beating the queue. We used to go to Burnham-on-Sea to see my auntie some Saturday mornings. So on the Friday night, he would drive our car from Chepstow to Beachley. He'd park it right outside the ticket office, get the bus home. Saturday morning, we're on the bus, cross the beach in the car, first on the ferry. It's called a little local knowledge. Anyway, that's Enoch. And this is the North Yorkshire Dry Dock in Hull, with the Princess being built. Again, another just priceless piece of film from the Williams family.
Were they built up in?
Yes, they were. Yeah. So we were up on deck, turntable not yet planked. A bit more of that much later on. That's Enoch bossing people about, because he's paying their wages. And this is Diana Beecham of the Bristol Beecham Drug Company. Diana launched the ferry, met her a few years ago, and she swore to me she's still got that hat. So this is the launching, sideways, that's very unusual. Bright red shiny hull, get that in your mind. Pristine white spray guards. I'm gonna say this, I think she's gorgeous. Anyway, and this is Enoch and his wife celebrating the launch in their hotel. It's called The Simple Life. Isn't that brilliant? So here she is coming down the North Sea. Just pause in there a second. You might have spotted that there's a caravan on the boat. Now the crew of 5 thought this is going to be brilliant. We're called into a harbour every night, a couple of pints on the company, bed and breakfast, whiz-o. Enoch had a very different idea. Just before and after the launch, he put a 2-berth caravan on there for people to sleep in on the way around. Okay, go. White Cliffs of Dover. Isle of Wight Ferry.
Was it retained or did he go on his own steam?
Go on its own steam.
Was that on his own steam?
Yeah. This is Hartland Point off of North Devon. Brilliant sunsets there. And here she comes in a moment in the late May evening gloom, arriving at Beachley for the very, very first time ever. Yeah, I mean, it's old film, and the fact we've blown it up distorts it a little bit, but the quality is pretty good. So there's the princess just about to take her maiden working voyage. But shortly afterwards, they decide to build a bridge. Just pause in there a sec. My dad was a blacksmith by trade, and he worked at the shipyard in Chepstow, where they built the deck sections for the bridge. And he was foreman welder on the deck sections. But you might remember they were launched and then tugged down the river and then winched up into place, which then was a massive feat of engineering. And this is the very last deck section being winched up into place on the bridge. And I was stood below with a couple of mates, and we were all hoping that it wouldn't fit. Because that's what kids do. Okay, go. Stop. Oh, pause in there quick. Yeah, brilliant. No traffic. This is Ost. That's a cyclist about to go onto the ferry. Right. Have a careful look at him. He's doing a hand signal. It's brilliant. He's doing a hand signal. He must have passed his cycling proficiency test. Right, pause in there. Top. You're doing great, thank you. That's the ticket office at Beachley. I know the lady who ran that ticket office, and she told me this story. It's late one afternoon, and for the first time in her career, a hearse arrives to come onto the ferry. Now, she's not very confident and didn't know what to charge. So she rang Enoch, and he said, curtly, same as a large van, 7 and 6, and phoned her. Moments later, her phone rang, and it was Enoch. That hearse. Yeah? Is there a coffin inside it? Yes. Extra 1 and 6. For the passenger. Okay, so. So there she is leaving Beachley. Priceless film, this is. Miracle. So that's nearing the ending of the building of the bridge. That's from the tower down onto the deck. The bridge is actually 2 bridges. It's the Severn Bridge and the Y Bridge. And that's the Y Bridge bit not yet built. That's why it's not the longest suspension bridge in the world. And this is looking down onto the Princess from the deck of the bridge, loading up just before the bridge opened. And the queue is developing. It would go back past Whiting School in Tutso, 2 miles. And look how sharp that turning circle is to get on. Right. Oh, hold in there, please. Some numbers I associate with the ferry. This is the last crossing, last ever crossing, on September the 8th, 1966. Numbers I associate with the ferry. I've met 8 people who told me their bowler hats have blown off into the river. I've met 8 Morris Minor owners who told me that their soft top has blown off into the river. I've met 8 people who told me that their suitcases have blown off the roof rack into the river. And I have met 7,943 people who said to me, "You'll never guess, I was on the very last ship that boat ever did." So that's the Severn Queen about to go. Some of the Williamses. And here's the Princess arriving for the very last time ever. Now, this is colour cine film back in the 60s. It's not the greatest quality, but it's perfectly watchable. Teddy boy haircuts. Remember them? I wouldn't have allowed one. Not that it still rankles. Okay, so she loaded up with foot passengers, company members, dignitaries, no vehicles on the last trip, and off she went. There she goes. Right, pause in there, please. Thanks. So, the bridge opened. Enoch was compensated for loss of trade to the tune of £160,000. It's an awful lot of money. The 3 ferries were taken into Hills Yard in Bristol and laid up. The Severn Queen was scrapped the next day, before anybody could find out the state that she was in. Working the day before, and you were probably on it. The Severn King, there was a railway crossing up at Sharpness, and that had been hit by 2 tankers in a fog. You may know the story. And 3 people died in that accident. And the bridge was partly demolished, and the King was employed to dismantle the rest of the bridge. In so doing, she slipped a mooring one night, and as the tide dropped, she sat on one of the pillars of the bridge and broke in 2. Queen had gone, King had gone, Princess, 7 years old, very valuable boat. And she was sold across to Ireland, where she did any kind of work that they could find for her. We'll come back to that in a second. Let's do a parked up car story. Car on this side, on the edge. Hot day, really hot day. Father manages to open the door, of the back door, where his daughter sat. They get to Beachley. Father slams the door.
That's the shower door.
She's got a little finger. Now, if you feel squeamish, put your fingers in your ears. Finger came off. Now, car there, can't open the doors. Car there, can't open the doors. Car there, can't open the doors. In this car, there's a doctor. So they wound down all the windows, and the doctor with his doctor's bag crawled through all of them and got the finger. And we call it in Chepstow what was called the plastic hospital, and drove her there and reattached the finger. And I've seen the finger. It don't work. All right. So here we are then in Ireland, red-leaded. She's still registered in Newport. 98 ton in her own weight, plus that lot on top. Any kind of work that they could find. The problem in Connemara was there were very few natural harbours. Pause it, please. Excuse me, thank you. And so they ran the Princess every day, fully loaded, up and down a concrete ramp. Metal boat, 98 ton, load on top, concrete ramp, work it out. And you'll see the evidence in a second. Now, I asked people what they think that load is. And they tell me they think it's coal. It's not. Ready? Top. They're mussels. So there's a fair few bobs worth of mussels on there in white wine sauce and garlic. Those are the anchors for a salmon farm that they were building, so any work they could find for them. But basically they ran her to death. I remember that lovely red hull at the launching? Well, it's so lovely now. And those beautiful Princess Pristine spray guards. Well, she's run aground. She's seriously unloved. And shortly after that picture, they towed her, the owners, pause in please, top. The owners towed her from there into a little fishing village called Kilkieran, and they tied her up at the quayside, 2 in the morning, and they ran away and they left her. So she'd been abandoned on the west coast of Ireland. Bit of method in their madness, in that Kilkieran is the only harbour on that coast that doesn't charge harbour fees. Anyway, as you can see here, she was hit by a force 9 and thrown up on the quay wall like that. So it's tidal, so she's under water twice a day, and clearly she's a wreck. Go. She's in the way, she's dangerous. Pausing, please. Top. Now, we've been told by a friend that he thought that was the ferry, the Princess. So myself and Richard and our wives flew out, and sure enough it was. And we met the owners, and she's in a right royal state. Yeah. Did a bit of a survey. Okay, run it down. Top. And that's Richard stuck in the mud. He's never forgiven me for putting this bit in. There's the tide mark. Halfway up the deck. Under water twice a day. There's Richard stuck in the mud. He's still there. But his wellies are, and that's the truth. Yeah, go on, mate, go on. Oh dear. Okay, pausing please. So we came back to Chepstow, slightly confused, if I'm honest, about what we're going to do about this thing, because Galway County Council had slapped a demolition order on her. And a fortnight later, they were going to scrap her and get rid of her, dangerous and in the way. So the Argus did a front page special about the ferry and the ferry in Ireland. And that was seen by a businessman in Newport called Terry Johnsey. And Terry rang me up out of the blue, didn't know him, went to school with his son, and he said, I've read this thing in the Argus, come down tomorrow and have a chat. So I went down to Spitty, into his office, had a chat. He said, right, roughly, what would it cost to repair it, make a protocol, and tow her back? I said, I've done me sums on this, about 15,000. Draw, checkbook, check for 15 grand. What? I said, Terry, why are you doing this? He said, because when I was first in business, I was in transport, and I relied upon those ferries, and if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be where I am today. It's not right she falls apart over there. Do your best to go and get her. So we loaded up 2 van loads of gear, and back we went to Ireland. And there we are below deck, high pressure hosing the mud. That was fun, believe me. To get the mud out, and once the mud's all gone, next tide comes in, fills the boat full of water, and you can see where all the damage is. The keel was riddled with damage. Okay, pause in there, please. Tar. There's one time-honoured solution for solving that problem in a metal boat, and it's this. You clean the keel out, you dry it right through with industrial dryers, and then you fill the whole thing full of concrete. Spot on. You whack it full of concrete. Yeah. The concrete forms a seal with the metal of the boat. That's what we did. And at just gone midnight that night, the tide came up and lifted her off that wall for the first time in 4 years. Go, go, go.
That's good.
That's me dad, clerk of the works. The tug is on his way out from Cardiff. Arrived about midnight. And off she goes. It's been a 5-day tow home, but they are the dolphins. This is all on the film. She was surrounded on the first leg of the tow, all on the film, by about 40 dolphins. They came with her all the way down the western coast of Ireland. They came with her around the southern coast of Ireland, on the film. They came with her about 15 miles into the Irish Sea, and then they turned and they went back to Ireland. Explain that. She had an escort home of about 40 dolphins. And we know that, pause in there please, Tom. And we know they went back to Kilkieran because the fishermen in the village had missed their dolphins for 4 days. I'll explain it. Right, this is 1 on the Beaufort scale of wind. Virtually no wind. Okay, go. So, you're doing a great job, thank you. And as you can see, she ain't designed for open water. She's a flat-bottomed inland water ferry boat. Dolphins didn't mind. You lovely? Watch them all day too. Now this next shot, you can see that the front is developing behind the ferry and the waves are getting a little bit more threatening. And she's trying to punch her way through those, just not built for it. And she was hit, I got the Met chart to prove it, by an unexpected force 9. With all the rain and stuff that came with it. And in a moment she's going to punch her way through a 40-footer. And she ain't designed for that. Hold on tight. Got your life jackets on? You're going to need them. Here we go. And after that, the storm broke and the rain came. And the result the following morning is that she's sinking. The waves are breaking over the top of the spray guards. That's a bit here on me. Ferry wants to go that way. Tug wants to go that way. Right, pause him there, please. And shortly after that shot, the tug skipper circled his £500,000 tug around, tied it to the sinking boat, climbed on board. We left a generator and a pump in the cabin. He sparked up the Jenny and pumped out just enough water to limp her into Swansea Bay. Absolute miracle. Okay, go. So in a moment you'll see the Mumbles Pier in the background. And you'll also see just how much water was in it. Here's the Mumbles. Anyway, after a day's pumping out, here she comes under the second Severn crossing, which was a pretty good feeling. But not as good as the next one. Because here she is coming to the Severn Bridge for the first time in 30 odd years. And the bridge is rammed with people and the klaxons and whistles and cheering. It's just brilliant. Into the mouth of the Wye, tied her off under the old Brunel Tubular Railway Bridge, where she is now, winched out. And we let the telly people come. They came locally, and then nationally, and then internationally. We've had them from Canada, the USA, Australia, the States, pause and please stop. From all over the world. And they're still coming. We did a show last year called Vanished Whales. It was absolutely brilliant. They were great people to work with. So the interest is still going on. So, some of the work that we've been doing. Spray guards had to go, they were rotten. That's the new wheelhouse the Irish have put on. We hit it, we kicked it, we jumped on it and we swore it. And it wouldn't move. So we got the high ab in and leaving it off, don't tell no one. Shh, mum's the word. And the reason we couldn't get it off was the Irish hadn't welded it on or used rivets. They concreted it on. They do like their concrete. The engines were Leyland 680 diesel bus engines. Great big steaming hot things. We've cleaned an inch of soot from the ceiling of the engine room. That's the conditions they were working in. So that's Phil cutting off the engine plates, and there they are, completely ruined. Turntable, it wouldn't move. We hit it, we kicked it, we jumped on it, we swore at it. And then we got the turfer in, and then the crane. Come on. Come on. Thank you. And the reason we couldn't shift it was the Irish had gotten underneath and concreted the wheels. Okay. He's not mine. He's washing. He lives it. And we got a cracking team of volunteers, very small but very, very, very good. Right, pause in there, please. Now then, some other pictures. I love this one. It's a horse-drawn gypsy caravan. Yeah, there's a horse-drawn gypsy caravan being taken onto the ferry. They took anything, furniture, vans. In the Second World War, they carried all the American Sherman tanks across the Severn to Caerwent, where they were stationed. So, that's a lovely picture. So is this one. I love this one. It appeals to my puerile sense of humour. Because this is the Queen. It's the Queen leaving the King. How about that? Talk about puerile. If you want a closer look at these after the talk, please come and have a look. Anyway, whenever the Queen and Prince Philip used the ferry, they put the Queen on one boat and Prince Philip on another boat, just in case. Absolutely. Now, when I was a kid, I had a camera, and it was called a Brownie 127. Remember? And it took 8 shots. So you took the pictures of things that were important to you. Your bike, your rabbit, your mum. You took your 8 shots, then you took the film to the chemist, and 7 months later it come back. And only 3 of the pictures come out. My point being, I've been given over 2,000 photographs of these ferries. 2,000. That's how important they were to people. And you've been smiling all night, so let's have one last smile. Because that's my Brownie 127 camera. How sad am I? Now, the famous pic. That's Bob Dylan.
Times they are changing.
He's at Ost to get his ticket. He's fed up. And why? Because he played the Coastal Hall the night before and done acoustic protest stuff in the first half, folk songs. In the second half, he came on with the band, i.e. the band, and he ripped into like a Rolling Stone, electrically, and the audience booed him off. And he was playing Cardiff Capital the next night, and you can just about make out the bridge being built in the background, so the times they were changing. And they called the tour the Judas Tour. And Dylan's DVD autobiography of his life in the music business, called No Direction Home, that's the cover. Last year, I did a show for the One Show on BBC with Keris Matthews. It was gorgeous. And we took it there and we found those 2 slabs and we stood Keris all in black, right there, and they morphed them in and out of each other. It was a really, really good piece of filming. And the next day, the Daily Express, I think it was, published a review of the bit of the programme. And it said, yeah, all fine. But the highlight of the programme was the ferry enthusiast who coined the phrase, his royal bogness. If I leave nothing else as a legacy, that's it. Now, The skipper of the Princess was a chap called Percy Palmer, a real old proper gentleman. When we got the ferry home, he'd gone blind. So we took some of this film with his wife Annie to the hospital, paused the ferry on the screen, and Mrs. Palmer traced her husband's finger around the outline of the boat. That took over an hour, because he had stories to tell for every single part of that boat. And I'm not ashamed to say, I was welling up, you know. Broke from the Argus was uncontrollable, bawling his eyes out. It was such an emotional moment. But we had an open day, one of the first ones, and Mrs. Palmer came down the slipway with a shoebox, and in the shoebox was that. And that's the original ship's ensign from the Severn Princess, the red duster, I think they called it. And it's another, all these things keep happening, you know. Anyway, and this is Mrs. Palmer, who I think at some point was Lady Mayoress of Monmouthshire, remember rightly. Anyway, there she is.
Annie Palmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you know Chepstow, it's the Palmer Centre.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's Mrs. Palmer with the red duster. Right. I had a phone call at Christmas a couple of years ago. A chap from Southampton called Ralph Stockton. And he said, my son has given me everything off the internet you can find about your ferry. But I haven't got a computer. So he's printed it out for me as a Christmas present. That's great. He said, I read in the notes that you're looking for the maker's plans for the boat. And I said, well, we were, yeah. But I've given up. I've tried every avenue I can explore, and I just can't find them anywhere. They disappeared off the face of the earth. Oh, how they? Only I've got them. He'd written to the company in Hull to ask to borrow a copy of the plans so he could make a model of the Princess. Now, these are 8-foot square boat builder sheets in the main. There's no photocopiers, so the firm in Hull sent him the originals. Isn't it? That's trust. He spent 2 years making the model, sent the plans back to Hull, firm had been wound up, so the GPO sent them back to him. And he sent them to me. And this is the smallest of them, but this is one of the original maker's plans for the Princess. Yeah, thank you. I spent most of my life doing that, being upside down. Here you go. So there they are.
That's very good.
Isn't it amazing? No. Over the last couple of years, we have made immense progress with this project. I want you to have a look at what we started with. So she's a right royal mess there. We're thinking, what on earth have we done? So that's an awful lot of messy boat to get fixed. But this, remember John Kent, Linda? Remember Kenty?
No, I don't.
That's Kenty who we taught at Whiting. And he is angle grinding the hull. And that takes the hull back to bare metal. Gets all the rest off and all the flaky metal work off. It's disgusting work. And the boys absolutely love it. So that's the hull being ground back. That's the hull now. So we're delighted to have got that done. And it's held up sailing for about 5 years now. And it's looking real, real good. I think. And that's up on deck.
Goodness, that's fine.
So the same has happened to the deck. It's been angle grinded right back to bare metal. We've had the turntable off and put new wheels on it. So the turntable is functional, which is going to be great because we're going to start taking visits very shortly. And all people want to do is pull the turntable out. And this, she's down by what's called the Barrack Development, Brunel House in Chepstow, under the old Tubular Bridge. Barrack's been pretty good with us, and they've purchased all of the scaffolding for us that we need to make the handrail. So once the handrail is in place, we can then go put it. So there you go. That's the work that's going on. We had an open day. Another one. Towards the end, a car pulled up on the slipway. Guy got out, opened his boot. And came out. It was Ralph Stockton from Southampton. He said, I want you to have this because I'd far rather it being shown to people or put on display than being in my attic. It's immaculate. I can't stress. It's immaculate in every single detail.
It hasn't got mud. It hasn't got mud.
It has had. Tell you why in a minute. That's not one plank of wood. Listen. They're hand-sawn rope and tar cork planks. Even that kind of idiosyncratic deck design there. It's exactly how it was on the real thing. It's got 2 engines inside. It all works. Got it going on the water, getting muddy. There's the rudder and the screws, propellers. Right down to this level of detail. The skipper of this boat was a chap called Percy Barber. As I've told you. Whenever Percy skippered, he wore a grey shirt and tie and a yellow knitted waistcoat that his wife had knitted for him from the knitting patterns. Have a look in the wheelhouse. He's wearing a grey shirt and tie and a yellow knitted waistcoat. And please, when we're finished, just come and have a look. There she is. That's better. That's finished. No, that's it. Now I'm finished.
Oh, is it?
Very, very much.
Well, I'd just like to say that was absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Very good. And there is time for questions. Does anyone have any questions or anecdotes?
It's not really a question. You're saying about the AA patrolman saluting if you had the badge on.
Yeah.
I'd heard that if they didn't salute you, it's because there was a speed trap. So if you didn't get saluted, you would slow down and then jump on the speed trap. Yeah.
Tim, can I just ask, was all of the ferries the same size?
No, Princess was bigger.
Bigger?
Yeah. And they were designed to take up as little deck space as possible. So the Severn King had an arch, so there was nothing on the deck at all. And the cabin was up on the arch. The Queen was small, she had a very small wheelhouse. The Princess was a much bigger boat, but again, a very small cabin and wheelhouse to take up very little space. So,
Sherman tanks are somewhat heavy. How many did you get on?
1. Right, I'm never going to be very, very cheeky. And I don't like doing this, believe me, I don't. I'm not a salesman, I'm a performer. You know. If anyone's interested, I do have copies of what you've seen tonight on here. That's a 15-minute edit of this, which is about 1 hour and 20 minutes long. It's a DVD with the whole ferry story, all the cine film, all the pictures, all the work we've been doing. They're about 1 hour and 20 minutes long. They're £10 each. If you'd like one, I've got some. We also have a USB stick with just shy of 1,000 photographs on there of the whole history of the ferry right through to the present day. They too are a tenner. If you're interested, I've got some. See me afterwards. If you're not interested, no hard feelings. I've had a really, really good night.
I just have one question.
Yeah,
for
sure.
you. The Severn Princess is being restored.
Yeah.
When do you think it might be open for me to have a ride on it?
Good question. Never.
Oh.
And I'll tell you why. I have had a marine surveyor to see her. He spent about an hour on board and below deck, and he came up with his clipboard after this hour and said, Tim, if you bought me this boat brand new, I would never, ever give it a licence. Herald, Marchioness, it's all moved on.
Yeah.
She's single skin, she'd have to be double skin. She's single bulkheads, she'd have to be double bulkheads. You're talking $500,000, which, sorry, not doing it.
Yeah.
She's far, and insurance costs and all the rest, she's far better off where she is. At the moment, you can walk the whole of the coast of Wales, as you probably know, the Always Coastal Path. Apart from that last 150 yards.
Yeah.
Right? That is going to be opened up next year, so you will be able to walk the whole of the coast of Wales, and the ferry will become the museum piece at the end of the Always Coastal Path. It could not have a better ending, in my view.
Right, any final question? One more question, yes.
Is there likely to be a permanent exhibition, and
Yeah.
if so, will it be on the ferry or in a museum?
It'll be in a very small visitor centre, yeah, in cafe. That's the plan.
Yeah.
Whether I live to see it or not, I don't know.
We do have one more at the back.
Yeah, far away.
Catherine.
For way of avoiding the queue during the Second World War, my grandmother lived in Newport and her sister drove an ambulance, and they had friends in Bristol.
Yeah.
So with both in uniform, because my grandmother ran the WVS in
Yeah.
Newport,
Yeah.
they got to the queue with the three boys in the back, and they were able to sail to the front and get on, be the first vehicle on the ferry.
All right, I'm on a roll. I've got 2 minutes.
Yeah, go on.
I'm on a roll. I met a couple from Taunton who got married. They were honeymooning in Barry Island.
Somebody's got to go.
Recipe for a short marriage, I thought. Joke, we love Barry. They get to Ost, the new bride wants to use the loo. Now, on the ladies' toilet at Ost, there was a turnstile. Because Enoch made the ladies pay a penny to go in to spend a penny. So in she goes, does the business, gets the wash basin, takes the ring off, puts it on the basin. You know what's coming. Washes the hands in the car, halfway across the Severn. Total free-fall panic. Husband drives off at Beach Street. He, as was the custom, has all the family money on his inside jacket pocket. He gives her 1 and 6 foot passengers return fare. She's on her own on the ferry, longest 25 minutes of her life. Gets off at Ost, runs down that rickety pier, broke a stiletto, she told me. Gets to the turnstile, peers through, and guess what? The ring was still there exactly where she left it. But didn't have a penny to go and get it. Give the lady a coconut. Just in the ticket office and the cafe, would they give her a penny? They both said no. Till it'd be out. So she waited about 20 minutes, I think, for another lady to use the loo, and she squeezed him with it. So all ended happily. Tommy Lanham, chief engineer. Lovely, lovely, lovely man. He wrote me this on a notepad on his deathbed. They get to Ost, Tommy's below deck, engineer. The skipper, Ben Brown, is taken ill. He's rushed into friendship. Tommy is now senior man on board. Rings Enoch, what do I do? And Enoch says, well, have you loaded up yet? And Tommy says, yeah. He says, well, not having their money back, you're going to have to go. He said, but who's going to steer the boat? He said, well, you are. I've never been above deck in my life. You know, oh look, the crew know what they're there. Don't worry, the crew will sort you out. Anyway, off he goes, terrified. Gets to Beach Street, gets to the pier, offloads, reloads, halfway across the Severn. Tommy, he's a kiddie now, he's loving this. He's enjoying himself. They get to Ost, gets to the pier, offload, reload. It's 1959 when this happened a lot. Woomph! Down came the smog. He could not see a thing. Rang Enoch, what do? Have you loaded up yet? Yep. Well, they're not with their money back, you're going to have to go. He said, I cannot see us. Look, there's a bell at Beach. You listen for the bell. You'll be all right. So off he goes into the void. 25-minute crossing. 20 minutes goes by. 30 minutes goes by. 45 minutes later, he ran aground at Avonmouth. They had to wait 6 hours for the next tide to come in and lift her off the mud. 6 hours, ferry full of cars, full of people who can't get out. I leave the rest to your imagination. Thank you very, very much indeed.